One can only speculate as time goes on that Battlefield 2042 will be a richer experience than it currently is. Whilst I've enjoyed much of my time playing, squadding with others and you guys on stream, it's not all been a smooth experience. In BF1 and 5, I'm very confident in my approach to the game. My aim for the most part is pretty solid, and right now in 2042, it just isn't. The aim isn't as crispy and clean as it once was, and the handling of the weapons needs a good tweaking. The aim assist isn't, or at least it doesn't feel like it's working properly, and there appears to be acceleration in places, even when I'm using a mouse. Improving your shot hitting feeds and feeling confident in your aim is all essential to the FPS experience, and all of this needs addressing ASAP. The whole aiming customization needs to be on the same level of BF5 at least. Game performance is a part of that feeling too. I understand that 128 players is going to be a big hit to performance. I'm not expecting 200 FPS, but 120 and a more responsive feel would be just lovely. Weapon handling definitely needs some work. SMGs dominate, LMGs are pretty nice too, but a couple of the ARs appear to have excessive spread, bloom, or whatever you wish to call it. Other weapons experience it too. DICE are aware of all of this thankfully. Lead game designer Drunksy has been tweeting and acknowledging issues with the gunplay since early access launch. The attachments appear to not be doing entirely what they should be doing on some weapons too. I would prefer more weapons on launch, particularly some extra pistols. LMGs may be a martini, but I can live with these for now and hope more will come with the seasons going forward. For the first few days, there were server issues, lag and rubber banding in particular. These appear to have been mostly fixed now, and the new Battlefield communications account has been quickly on top of many current issues in the game, talking about issues present, disabling features that were causing issues, and re-enabling them later. My favorite mode, Breakthrough, on early access release for example, was usually over very quickly. DICE responded and swiftly changed up the tickets, and now you see more back and forth action and longer games. While not everything has been addressed yet, this new account and the swift actions that we've seen so far does give me some good hope for the future. There is sadly today quite a few things to talk about. I can't talk about all of this in details, and I'm sure I'll miss some things, so here's a few stuff and then we'll go a little bit more in depth with other things that I feel really need talking about. So, not being able to zoom into the map and choose a specific spawn, for example on a teammate or a spawn beacon in a populated area, is quite frustrating. Being forced to spawn in the map at the beginning is too. The unable to revive bug and having to quit the game has been crazy frustrating, particularly as a streamer. The UI bugs making teammates look like enemies, incredibly annoying. Certain vehicles and loadouts are clearly better than others, something that I'm sure, like previous games, will hopefully be addressed as time goes on. There is shots dusting on helis, that's where you just see a smoke around the heli and your shot doesn't connect. There is no all chat, which I don't understand. Where is the voice chat? A little bit disappointed that's not on launch. I use Discord these days, but I understand a lot of people need that. Like other creators have chatted about for a long time, it would be nice to be able to link up squads if possible. There is a huge lack of options to resize the UI, the opacity and stuff like that. Turn off the glow on sites as well. Servers are not being in an actual rotation, and often you're playing the same map over and over again. That has got to change. There is no TDM servers. There needs to be more portal servers for this kind of stuff whenever the XP farm issue is addressed, and of course more general options for portal as well would be nice. Destruction is lacking in places. To me, it personally feels more like BF4 overall rather than BF1. It does kind of feel a little dead in some areas without this, but not all. Unfortunately, there is no zeroing on the sniper scopes. Personally, I never really use that, but I think it should be in the game. There is no addition of ammo or health pickups of teammates, and I think that would be an awesome feature for this game. There's no diving while swimming, so in some areas you can't swim across without being spotted. There's no manual leaning, which I think should be in the game. I can kind of see why that might not be though, with the long lines of sights in some areas. That could be quite annoying. There is many missing UI options like the vehicle seat info among many others. There's no separate controls for helis and jets, and for me that is really annoying. The scoring system needs work, and it should look more exciting as you rack up the points. And the audio is just not as good as BF1, the gold standard in my opinion. And of course the soundtrack, I like some of it, but I gotta be honest, much of it isn't as inspiring, dare I say, as I would have hoped. I could go on and on, but you get the picture. There is lots of smaller kind of issues in this game that need adjusting ASAP. Personally, I can live with these specialists as they are, but I would prefer they were restricted somewhat to become similar to classes in previous Battlefield games. It is obvious these specialists are here to stay, and that's probably not going to change. Again, I would prefer classes, but I could live with them. It would be awesome in the future if there were free outfit variations later down the line that were somewhat similar to the classic classes we've seen before. I've been quite vocal over the years on streams when it comes to what I do and don't like about Battlefield. Even my favorite BF1, in this game, suppression, not my favorite thing. I'm glad it's not back, but I would be fine if it was like BF5, where it was just a visual thing. Personally, I wish there was less ways to be spotted and showing up on the map. It always feels like there's a drone that's spotting me. I'm on the minimap from firing, a turret gun reveals my location, or one of the robot dogs simply ruins a flank and reveals where I am by shooting at me. I'm not a big fan of 3D spotting and flares, but I think BF1 kind of got it right for the most part. Not showing up on the minimap when you're firing allowed for many more flanks, unique moments, risky pushes, and more tug-of-war style back and forth action. Basically more unique moments. That's what made the streets of Amiens or the trenches of St. Quentin Scar in BF1 so good. Without a suppressor, many flanks and pushes are simply not as easily possible in this game. And I've got to say, flanking in this game is quite hard, particularly in Breakthrough. Conquest not so much, but in Breakthrough, it is very difficult at times. In many ways, it's a similar system to BF4, and while I'm very fond of that game, I'd rather less looking at the UI and more thinking about your plays, and that extends to the specialists as well. Revealing where players are behind cover, I'm not so sure about all that stuff. Again, I'm not looking for a hardcore experience. I just really believe Battlefield is a much more interesting experience with less revealing of your location going on. Which comes to my next point. Many of the maps are quite open in their design. They seem to have more in common with BF4 than 1.5 or even Bad Company 2. It seems some maps need more cover in places or less lines of sight. BF1's maps, for example, encourage more playing on your own terms, I would say. Pushing a trench or running in the open, you get to decide more, I believe. Whereas 2042, it's kind of like BF4 in some ways. You tend to do better when sticking with your team. I'm thinking of maps like Golmud Railway, where some areas of the map were pretty bad for infantry, and if you weren't with your team, you could struggle, unless you're in a vehicle, of course. There's of course pros and cons of both kind of map designs, particularly with different player counts, but either way, I do think more cover is needed in places, less long lines of sight, or perhaps even more objectives to break up the action from time to time. Breakthrough has always been my mode of choice since BF1, and while it's a fairly good experience at times, it needs some major changes to keep the games fresh in the long term. The biggest problem is the building top objectives. It's almost impossible to take these without some luck, a hovercraft, or hopefully some decent air support. And that's all relying on your team too much, and we all know having to rely on your team too much can weaken the experience. Just think about BF1 on a map like Volga River. If your team doesn't push up, you've got a massive open area and it's a nightmare to PTFO and try and win the game. I'm not saying BF 2042 is completely open, but at times it can often feel like that. And I must stress, in Conquest, it's a different story. It's quite a different flow, and I haven't played much Conquest. Honestly, Breakthrough is the mode for me, and I think it is the future of Battlefield, and I hope DICE really try and expand on it. If they don't, I think it's going to be a massive mistake. So I am all for teamwork. It is what makes Battlefield Battlefield. But if the only way to an objective is a risky push in an elevator, a lucky push with a hovercraft, or support from helis, that is not really a fun or a balanced experience. More routes need to be added, maybe scaffolding, and spread the action out a little bit. Like I said in a beta video, attacking the tower on Orbital and defending was a fun experience in Conquest, but risking your life pushing a staircase or elevator in Breakthrough or the zip lines eventually just becomes a frustrating experience, and you just die over and over again. Locker in BF4 suffered from the exact same issues described here from time to time. course, it's fine to have one-sided experience to kick off a round, like seen on the opening of the Hourglass map with the stadium, where the attackers have the advantage and defenders really have to work. I'm kinda okay with that at times. Whether that's for story or just setting the atmosphere, I think it can kinda be fine at times. Just such an approach needs to be carefully considered anywhere else in the game, because it's leading to one-sided games and kind of boring and frustrating moments where you can't really do anything, or you take a risk and probably just die. And no one wants to do that. Talking of maps, I'm kind of okay with the lineup so far, but I do think it would have been cool to revisit the maps available in Portal in 2042, even if they were reworked into the story. Imagine, for example, it said, "This is what No Share Canals in the year 2042 looks like. It's a wasteland now," or "Nature has taken over," or something cool. You know, it could have been really awesome thing to do. We get the old maps reimagined a bit, and more maps basically for the main game. That right there, I gotta say, is a big mistake if you ask me. In the future, I'd like to see them play more with maps, more variety in the ways they play, add 64-player experiences for next gen and PC. I do not think we need 128 all the time. I get it, it's fun, but we don't. 64 is fine, and it's better in some ways. I actually posted a video on previous gen in the beta, and the flow on those maps, which have a different layout, was actually pretty good. I could see 128 players actually working on those. I wish there was an official playlist for it. Going forward, we have to see map changes overall. More objectives, a better flow. Some maps like the one with the ship is great once past the first sector, but that is near impossible to take. Again, it goes back to the openness, the lines of sight, and the lack of flanks. There needs to be more natural flanks, like the map is designed for them to happen. Just think of Amiens in BF1. You know, the flanks on that map, they just happen over and over again. That's probably what we need. Now, I'm not saying every map needs to be Amiens, there needs to be variety, but I'm just saying we need those kind of natural kind of flanks going on. Now, we have to talk about vehicles. Running away from an attack heli or a tank in previous games was awesome. In this game, anytime a rocket hits you, you are briefly stationary. I don't know why that's in the game. It's very jarring, and in my opinion, it's just not exciting. There's usually no chance to survive, and it just kind of feels bad. Let me run away. That chance of escape is what makes infantry versus vehicle combat fun and exciting. To add to that, hovercrafts getting stuck on things, infantry too, slipping off the edge of an object. These little things are very annoying. The hovercraft is obviously a major concern. I can't lie, I've had some fun in it. Definitely gonna have a lot more fun before it gets nerfed, but it's excessive. The transport doesn't need to be so dominant. I'm mostly okay with the number of vehicles when it comes to tanks, but helis and transports with weapons, I'm not convinced we need so many. You know, oftentimes I'm pushing up to an objective, hovercraft comes around, blasts me, I get revived, and I'm like, alright, let's go, let's go, let's go, and then another hovercraft comes around, die to that, get revived, and then a turret gun or a heli comes in, and I'm like, I've died 5 times in a row, and I've not really had any say in it. That, for me, do not like that. I'm totally fine with the new vehicle physics, it's all cool and nice, but the heli and jet controls need a major overhaul. They feel kind of floaty, nothing like BF4, which was pretty solid in my eyes. The specific vehicle adjustments would be a long topic, so I'm not going to go in there. I'm just going to say balance is needed. I don't mind so much that you have to be quite defensive in a tank. It kind of reminds me of Bad Company 2 in a sense. Just a little less restricted would be nice. Talking of the user interface, yes, I'd prefer to have a proper scoreboard, but I can live without that for now if the more pressing matters are addressed. Yes, bring it back and do rework some of the current elements, changing your loadout, specialists and such. It's not so bad with a mouse, but on controller it needs work, and same for the attachments. It's a bit clunky in places, and it just needs to be a smoother experience when changing up your loadout and whatever weapon you want to spawn in with. The plus system is great, but with custom controls I find myself having to hold the button, otherwise I whip out my knife. Talking of knives, add in the option for first person takedowns please. I would love to see them. Third person, it's fine. I haven't done many takedowns, but I'd rather it just be first person, in all honesty. There's parts of previous games I've seen people wish were back. I get it, but I'm not entirely sure everything should. Personally, I was fine with animations getting in and out of vehicles. Others were not. The explosions in this game look pretty good to me. The shockwaves look awesome. Should we be blown back like BF5? I don't know, honestly. I'm okay with it being in the game or not being in the game. It's not a huge deal to me. There is always features going in and out of Battlefield, and some of them I'm kind of okay with them coming in or not. It's not a huge deal for me. The throwback grenades, definitely think that needs to come back though. Should laying on your back with an MMG return? I'm not so sure about that. There was some kind of playstyles that personally I didn't really enjoy. I don't mind it too much if it wasn't for MMGs and LMGs and whatever, and just the overall visibility in BF5. There is some places in 2042 where the visibility isn't that good, but I'm not sure it should come back. Honestly, I'm okay with the game not having a single player campaign. I know there's been some people complaining about that. Personally, Bad Company 2's was fine. 3 and 4 were a bit hit and miss. Battlefield 1 was fun. 5 was a bit of a letdown. Again, I'm not against it. I just personally don't care for it. Hazard Zone, it's an okay experience. It will please many who like that sort of thing. Had a little bit of fun myself, but it needs to be more intense. The progression and the currency system all need changing. There needs to be more players. I genuinely think it needs to be a much more hardcore experience. If DICE do not make a BR, and I'm not saying make it right now or in the next few months, I'm just saying in a year or so, if they do not make a BR, having played Hazard Zone, I think it would be a massive mistake. There would be so much potential. There is so much cool stuff in this game. The maps are huge. There is so much potential with it. If they don't do it, they are making a big mistake. I like Battlefield 2042, despite it not being perfect. It's not being exactly what I hoped the next title would be. I've made content on Battlefield for a very long time. I've seen the buggy launch of BF4, and I watched that turn into a game loved by most. I can only hope for the same with 2042. I've been playing Battlefield since Bad Company 1, online with 2, and I became a full-time streamer and creator with the success of BF1 on my channel and the support from you guys. Just before BF5, I became an EA game changer and I got to play BF5 early. It had its moments and I loved it for a long time, but the one-sided games, unbalanced matches, Medic SMG dominating it, and other things going on with the game and stuff in my life, I kind of just lost passion for it at the time. And despite getting views and great stream numbers, I actually quit it for a long time and went back to BF1. I hope that's not going to be the same for 2042. You know, I had a good run going back to BF1 and luckily found success streaming with Warzone 2. And, you know, I'm so passionate about this series. Despite the numbers that I got with Warzone, I kept streaming BF1 from time to time. I'm passionate about Battlefield. It's why I'm making this video today and why I made Battlefield 6 DICE Please before 2042 arrived. Honestly, I'd prefer 2042 to play more like BF1 when it comes to the only in Battlefield moments, the flanks, the streaks, unique situations you'd often find yourself in. If you'd like to hear more about that, do check out that video. It's linked below. There's lots of things in that video that I would have liked to talk about today, but this video is going to be really long if I go into that. And of course, there is many more things that I've not included in the game, in this video or discussed today. This video is getting long as it is. Honestly, I do believe there is some design choices that make sense as to why something like fortifications, for example, are not returning for others. But there is just some strange decisions with this game. Yeah, it's a bit strange and I'm a little bit confused at times, but I am enjoying this game. There's something about it that I kind of like. In the future, I'd like more urban maps, more weapons, more variety in how the game plays. I've honestly been hesitant to push out a video like this so quickly because things change. The way the game plays now compared to early access day 1 is quite different. I need to feel it before I judge it. Just like BF1, you know, if we judged that game all on Sinai Desert, I probably wouldn't have played as much of it as I did. It ain't perfect. When has Battlefield ever been? It's still Battlefield, and with some tweaks, I believe it could be a much better game. I don't say any of this out of hate. I have a strong passion for this series, and when it's all kicking off in 2042, it can be a lot of fun. But right now, it's just not quite perfect. There's so many cool elements, and I'm loving it. I honestly am loving streaming it and just having fun with it, but there is part of me, and maybe I'm not always showing it on stream. If you watch my streams, I do criticize this game. You can obviously Even visibly, you'll see me a little bit frustrated at the game, but there's part of me that is still enjoying it. And with the new Battlefield communications account, some of the changes and response we've seen so far, there are promising things being seen right now. I do hope there is more to come too, I wish. Anyway, one can only hope, one can only speculate. Battlefield 2042, dice please.